So today we're going to talk about angles, and these are your notes. So please fill in this sheet that you have. So first we're going to talk about basics about how to name an angle. When you name an angle that has 3 points on it, you name it in order as they go. So we could name this A, B, C. Please fill this in. Or I could do C, B, A. Do you see how I name it? And B is in the middle because that's in the middle of these 2 points. It's the vertex there, the point. So on number 2, can you do number 2? We want to name this angle. So we could do FED or DEF is another way to name it. Please fill these in. And then we're going to talk about different angle names before I get into the rest of the reference sheet. So this is an obtuse angle. It's more than 90 degrees and less than 180, but you can just say more than 90. Acute angle is a little angle, acute little angle that's less than 90 degrees. And I'm sure you know this, a right angle equals 90 degrees. And a straight line equals 180 degrees. Those should be all background information. I think you guys already know this stuff. Just make sure everything's filled in, please. Now we're going to talk about 4 different types of angles today, and also the angles of a triangle. Now, there's these, you need to know vertical angles, complementary, supplementary, and adjacent. So those are 4 types of angles, and they're really not complicated. So let's just start with vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles that are across from each other on intersecting lines. So do you see how these 2 lines intersect? 1 and 2 are vertical angles. So this angle and that angle are called vertical angles, and they are congruent, meaning the exact same. So if angle 1 is 30 degrees, then angle 2 is 30 degrees. They're the same. You could write same, exact size. So you're going to have to identify vertical angles on today's work and on homework, and they're just the same. Then we have complementary angles. Now, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause the video, fill in everything, and then unpause it and listen. Complementary angles are 2 angles, underline 2, because it's exactly 2 angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. So it's 2 angles. Remember, sum means add. 2 angles that add up to 90 degrees. Now, as you see from the picture, they don't have to be next to each other. It's just 70. Here we have 70 plus 20 equals 90 degrees. So those are called complementary angles. You're more often going to see them this way, where here's your right angle right here. And these 2 angles, if they add up to 90 degrees, then they are called complementary angles. If you hear them talk about the complement, if I said I have a 70-degree angle, what would its complement be? It would be what other angle added to that would equal 90 degrees. So complementary is 2 angles that add to 90 degrees. And supplementary is 2 angles that have a sum of 180 degrees. 2 angles that have a sum, they add to 180 degrees. And again, they don't need to be next to each other. This, so we have here 120 degrees. So if I said, what's the supplement to 120? I would say, what do I add to that to get 180 degrees? Okay, so these two are supplementary. Now, it can't equal 181 or 179.5. It has to equal exactly 180. Okay, same with complementary. It can't be 90.2. It has to be exactly 90 degrees. If they don't add up to 90 or they don't add up to 180, then they're just nothing. They're two angles, they're not supplementary, and they're not complementary. Here is a way you see them quite frequently is right next to each other. So this angle plus this angle equals, do you see how there's a straight line? And a straight line has 180 degrees. So 100 plus 80 equal, or that's 130 plus 50 equals 180 degrees. So these are called supplementary angles. The next type of angles we have to be able to identify are adjacent. Two angles that are next to each other. The angles share a common side and vertex, which is just a point. Okay, so two angles that are next to each other. So, like when you're sitting at the lunch table, the person in the seat right next to you, they are adjacent to you, they're next to you. Okay, so here they are, they share a side and they share this vertex as that point. And these are called adjacent angles. So, if you look up at the complementary, these are adjacent because they share a side and a point, and these two are adjacent. Oop, adjacent. I can't fit that. Sorry. So those are examples of adjacent. These two individual angles are not adjacent. And then I'm just going to finish this sheet out. Interior angles of a triangle we have done for a few warm-ups. The three angles in a triangle. So if I add this angle and that angle and that angle, I have to get 180 degrees. So the sum of the angles inside a triangle. Okay, so let's look back up here. Vertical angles are two angles that are across from each other. They're the same measure. They're congruent. Look, see how it looks like a bow tie? And that means this angle up here and this angle down here are congruent also. Those are vertical angles. Complementary are any two angles, exactly two angles. It can't be three angles. Two angles that add up to 90 degrees are called complementary. And two angles that add up to 180 degrees are called supplementary. And then adjacent just means next to each other. So remember, whoever sits next to you, they're adjacent to you. Okay, maybe you think whoever sits across from you would be a vertical angle, right? The angles are across from each other. And then the sum of the angles inside a triangle, they equal 180 degrees. And these are the notes that you're going to use for today's lesson.